the secret that changes everything. What if I told you that everything you want already exists, but it's just waiting for you to align your body, mind, emotions, and energy to reach you? That it's not luck, nor inheritance, nor chance that defines who prospers, but rather how you organize yourself internally every day? This isn't an empty promise. It's a principle that masters like Sadhguru teach and that ordinary people have been using to create fortunes, change their lives, and live with purpose. In the next steps, you'll hear real stories of people who started from scratch and achieved extraordinary results using this method. You'll understand why it's not doing more that guarantees success, but rather doing in alignment. And you'll discover that manifestation isn't a magical act, but a clear process that anyone committed can follow. But before we begin, I need you to do something simple and decisive: subscribe to the channel now. Only people with an abundance mindset stick around to learn and apply this kind of knowledge. By subscribing, you're telling yourself and the universe that you're ready to take control of your reality. Get ready, because from now on, you won't see your desires the same way anymore, and you'll understand why the true power to create the life you want has always been within you. Chapter 1: The Power of Inner Alignment. Sadhguru teaches that everything you manifest in the external world is a direct reflection of what's happening within you. Body, mind, emotions, and energy work like four gears that need to turn in the same direction to generate consistent results. When one of these parts is misaligned, effort is dispersed and life seems to go in circles. If you're experiencing scarcity or frustration today, it's not just because opportunities are lacking, but because your internal structure isn't organized to create abundance. It's like trying to travel without a map. You can walk a long way, but you'll hardly get where you want to go. This alignment isn't mystical, it's a practical, trainable process. When the mind is stable, the rest begins to follow suit. Sarah Miller, a former Denver teacher, was in debt and unmotivated. Her mornings began with worry and rushing, reflecting on the rest of the day. Upon learning about Sadhguru's teachings, she realized she needed to stop reacting to chaos and start creating intentionally. She adopted a simple yet powerful routine: waking up at 5 a.m., meditating for 20 minutes, writing down her goals, and exercising her body before any external tasks. These practices aligned her mental and physical state to support larger goals. Within 18 months, she quit her job and started an online English course business. In the second year, she made her first million. Sarah didn't change her life because she had a miraculous idea, but because she changed who she was internally. Michael Harris, from Austin, Texas, worked 12-hour days in an office and was mentally exhausted. He spent his time reinforcing beliefs that it's not possible and fueling a cycle of frustration. Inspired by Sadhguru, he decided to reprogram his mind before making any other changes. He created a morning visualization ritual, mentally repeating that he was already living the life he wanted. He reduced news and social media to a minimum, replacing them with reading and focused study. Over time, his energy levels and clarity increased. 2 years later, he founded a software startup for small businesses and sold his stake for over $4.3 million. His turnaround began long before financial success. It began in the silence of his own mind. Rebecca Collins, from Seattle, worked as a waitress and studied at night, but she constantly felt that life was too much. She realized she spent hours complaining and reinforcing negative emotions. Following the principles of alignment, she adopted a simple habit: before bed, recall 3 good moments of the day and be grateful for them. This exercise drastically reduced her anxiety and increased her emotional well-being. With greater clarity and confidence, she began planning to open a small cafe. A few years later, she had a chain of specialty coffee shops, generating over $2 million in annual revenue. Rebecca understood that thoughts and emotions need to follow the same direction to sustain lasting results. These 3 stories have one thing in common: they all began the change within themselves before acting in the world. They didn't wait for life to improve to change their internal state, they changed their internal state to improve their lives. The alignment between thought, emotion, and action created a solid foundation for the right opportunities to arise. Focused energy generated clarity and confidence to act strategically. With each small internal victory, the external results multiplied. Their success was not a coincidence, but the inevitable consequence of a well-structured internal system. When Sadhguru talks about organizing the 4 dimensions, he's not just referring to emotional balance. He's talking about daily discipline to maintain a healthy body, a stable mind, positive emotions, and high vital energy. Without this combination, any goal becomes more difficult to achieve. But when all these elements align, it's as if life begins to work in your favor. What seemed improbable becomes natural. And most impressively, this process doesn't depend on luck or external circumstances, but on conscious choices repeated daily. It's at this point that you stop being a victim of conditions and become the creator of your own reality. If you look closely, you'll see that nothing in these stories is unattainable. There were no million-dollar inheritances, powerful connections, or revolutionary ideas. What was involved was a non-negotiable commitment to changing the way each person thought, felt, and acted. From that moment on, everything else reorganized itself. And that's the invitation for you now, to take control of your internal state and let your external life reflect this new pattern. In the next chapter, we'll delve deeper into how the mind acts as the invisible architect of everything you experience and how you can shape it to build the future you truly desire. Chapter 2: The Mind as Architect. Sadhguru asserts that everything in the human world was created twice, first in the mind, then in the physical world. This means that before a building was constructed, it existed as a detailed mental blueprint. Before a business was born, it was a clear vision in someone's mind. The mind is like an invisible architect, and each thought is a brick that makes up the future reality. The problem is that most people let this construction happen haphazardly, allowing negative thoughts, fears, and doubts to determine the final structure. Thus, the result is a confusing, unstable, and flawed project. If we want wealth and prosperity, we need to become conscious architects of what we are designing every day. Sarah Miller understood this when she realized she spent hours imagining failure scenarios. She expected things to go wrong, and, not coincidentally, they did. When she began using her mind as a creative tool, she began mentally projecting her future in detail, what the office of the business she would open would look like, the clients she would serve, and the feeling of freedom in working independently. This daily mental rehearsal reprogrammed her brain to recognize and pursue opportunities aligned with what she envisioned. Instead of letting fear shape the future, she took on the role of architect. Michael Harris also applied this concept. He began to realize that all his focus was on what he didn't want: debt, pressure from his boss, a tiring routine. Following Sadhguru's teachings, he decided to reverse the process, dedicate mental energy only to what he wanted to create. Every morning, he spent 10 minutes imagining in great detail what it would be like to run a successful business. He visualized productive meetings, satisfied clients, and the tranquility of having free time. This practice not only altered his mood but also his behavior, leading him to make bolder and more strategic decisions. Rebecca Collins adapted the concept to her own reality. While still working as a waitress, she used the time between tables to mentally rehearse what the routine would be like at her own cafe. She imagined the smell of freshly ground coffee, the sound of lively customer conversations, and even the background music. She not only visualized the scene in her mind, but also emotionally placed herself within it, feeling the joy and satisfaction of that future. This led her to begin taking appropriate action, studying more about specialty coffee, researching suppliers, and financially planning for opening the business. This type of practice works because the brain doesn't distinguish between something physically experienced and something intensely experienced in imagination. When you replay a mental scene with emotion, you create new neural connections that teach the body to behave as if it were already real. This is what Sadhguru calls aligning thought and energy to make room for manifestation. The opposite is also true. Mentally replaying negative scenarios trains the body and mind to perpetuate those outcomes. Therefore, consciously controlling what you think is the first step to changing external reality. By becoming a conscious architect of your own life, you stop living in reactive mode. Instead of waiting to see what the day brings, you decide what you want the day to bring. This requires clarity, because designing without a defined objective is like designing a house without knowing what each room is for. Mental clarity generates direction, direction, in turn, generates focus, and focus generates efficient action. It's a self-reinforcing process. The more you design with intention, the more opportunities consistent with the project arise. In the next chapter, we'll discuss the importance of taming what Sadhguru calls the monkey mind, the one that jumps from thought to thought without direction. Because even the best architect, if he doesn't have control over his tools, ends up building something unstable. And when it comes to wealth and prosperity, mental instability is synonymous with inconsistent results. Chapter 3: The Danger of the Monkey Mind. Sadhguru compares an uncontrolled mind to a restless monkey, always moving, imitating, and jumping from branch to branch without purpose. This mental state is one of the greatest enemies of those seeking prosperity, as it prevents attention from remaining fixed long enough to generate concrete results. A mind that doesn't stabilize is like a plant that changes pots every week. It never grows deep roots to flourish. Overstimulation, haste, and lack of clarity keep this monkey mind active, draining energy and focus. To build wealth, you need to calm it and train it to stay focused. Sarah Miller lived this problem without realizing it. Even with defined goals, she found herself lost in secondary tasks, social media, and pointless worries. Her day was fragmented, and by the end, she felt exhausted without progress. Inspired by Sadhguru, she began taking short breaks throughout the day to breathe deeply and reconnect with her main priority. This simple habit reduced anxiety, organized her workflow, and increased productivity. By eliminating distractions, she freed up energy for more strategic projects, accelerating the growth of her digital business. Michael Harris also suffered from mental instability. He spent hours trying to anticipate future problems, responding to every small crisis as if it were urgent. This left him exhausted and without the energy to think about the company's growth. By practicing daily meditation, focusing on observing his thoughts without dwelling on them, he was able to drastically reduce his reactivity. This mental clarity allowed him to make more assertive decisions and lead his team calmly, creating an environment conducive to innovation and profit. Rebecca Collins had another type of monkey mind. She constantly changed her mind about what she wanted for her business, influenced by what she saw in her competitors. This constant imitation prevented her from creating an authentic brand. Realizing that originality requires focus, she took a social media detox and spent weeks analyzing what she truly wanted to build. This introspection resulted in the creation of a cafe with a unique identity, which attracted loyal and distinguished customers. Mental stability translated into financial stability. The monkey mind presents two major risks: unnecessary movement and unconscious imitation. Unnecessary movement dissipates energy, while imitation impedes innovation. Both sabotage conscious manifestation. Sadhguru explains that positive thinking isn't enough, it's necessary to maintain the thought steady and nurture it long enough for it to materialize. Without this consistency, the mind jumps from desire to desire, weakening the creative force. Training the mind means consciously choosing where to place your attention and refusing to entertain thoughts that distract you from your goal. This process requires discipline, but it brings immense rewards. With directed focus, energy is concentrated like a laser beam, capable of transforming intentions into real results. It is this internal transformation that separates those who achieve their goals from those who merely dream about them. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to align and strengthen the four pillars of manifestation: body, mind, emotion, and energy, to create a solid, unshakable foundation capable of sustaining any goal, whether financial, professional, or personal. Chapter 4: The Four Pillars of Manifestation. Sadhguru teaches that everything you want to create begins with the alignment of four internal dimensions: body, mind, emotion, and energy. He explains that when these parts are disorganized, you may have good plans, but the results will be unstable and slow. It's like trying to build a building with misaligned foundations. Any wind can knock it down. When these pillars align, the entire internal system begins to work in your favor. Thought gains strength, emotion sustains motivation, the body performs with more energy, and personal vibration attracts the right circumstances. This organization is the core of true manifestation. The body is the most visible yet often neglected pillar. Sarah Miller realized this when, despite mental clarity, she felt constant fatigue and pain. She understood that she couldn't sustain her growth without physical vitality. She incorporated daily exercise, a balanced diet, and regular rest times. With more energy, her productivity level soared. Her body became the vehicle for putting into practice everything she mentally projected, reinforcing the cycle of manifestation. The pillar of the mind is where it all begins. Michael Harris knew that if he didn't control his thoughts, they would lead him back to old patterns of scarcity. He developed the habit of mentally reviewing the day's goals and larger objectives every morning, as if they were already accomplished. This practice kept him steadfast, even in the face of challenges, and prevented distractions from stealing his focus. His trained mind worked like a GPS, recalculating routes whenever obstacles arose, but never losing sight of the destination. The pillar of emotion is the energy that drives action. Rebecca Collins realized that if she didn't feel joy and gratitude in the present, she wouldn't be able to create a business that conveyed these qualities. She began dedicating a few minutes each day to remembering what was already good about her and celebrating small victories. This practice raised her emotional frequency, which not only attracted more aligned customers but also increased creativity to innovate the menu and customer experience. Aligned emotions create results that go beyond profit. The energy pillar is the most subtle, yet the most powerful. It refers to the life force that sustains the body, fuels the mind, and colors emotions. Sadhguru says that when your energy is high and directed, you become magnetic to opportunities. Sarah, Michael, and Rebecca had meditation and breathing routines to clear energetic blockages. This practice increased mental clarity and physical endurance, creating an internal state conducive to achieving goals without excessive exhaustion. The alignment of these four pillars creates a multiplier effect. When the body is healthy, the mind thinks better. When the mind is focused, emotions are organized. When emotions and thoughts are aligned, energy flows more powerfully. It's an interconnected system, and ignoring any part compromises the whole. This balance doesn't happen by chance, it's built daily through conscious choices, small adjustments, and consistency. In the next chapter, we'll discuss the physics of faith and how it acts as a catalyst to accelerate manifestation. Because, once its four pillars are firmly in place, faith is the element that breaks down the last blocks and transforms what's in the mental realm into tangible reality, often faster than you imagine. Chapter 5: The Physics of Faith. Sadhguru explains that true faith is not blind belief, but a state of mind free from internal contradictions. He asserts that when you desire something and simultaneously doubt its possibility, you are sending out opposing signals, nullifying the desire itself. Faith is like a constant magnetic field. It maintains the direction of thought and prevents distractions from diverting energy. In physics, stable fields create predictable force. In life, faith acts the same way, sustaining focus until the goal manifests. Without this element, even the alignment of the four pillars can lose strength over time. Sarah Miller experienced this when she decided to double the revenue of her digital business. Initially, she was clear about the necessary actions, but harbored a silent fear of failure. Inspired by Sadhguru, she began practicing daily affirmations that the result was already real. Soon, her doubts faded and her confidence grew. This internal shift increased her ability to make bold decisions, such as investing in new products and expanding her team. Growth, which seemed distant, happened months ahead of schedule. Michael Harris also used faith as leverage. He had an innovative project for his software company, but the initial investors backed out. Instead of interpreting this as a failure, he remained firm in his belief that the idea was viable. He continued working, talking to potential clients, and refining the product, as if funding were already secured. This approach attracted a strategic investor who not only financed the project but also became a long-term partner. His unwavering faith kept him going until the right moment arose. Rebecca Collins experienced the physics of faith more intuitively. During the expansion of her coffee chain, she faced renovation delays and unexpected cost increases. She knew that giving in to fear would compromise her energy and her team. So she began gathering her employees every morning to reinforce the business vision and remind them why they were there. This collective energy kept everyone motivated and committed. When the opening took place, the return exceeded expectations, and the additional costs were quickly recouped. True faith works because it eliminates the emotional oscillations that interrupt the flow of manifestation. Mentally, it prevents negative thoughts from contaminating intention. Energically, it keeps the vibrational field stable, facilitating the attraction of resources, people, and situations. It's like keeping a lighthouse lit in the fog. It guides the way even when you can't see the destination clearly. The more constant the light, the faster the ship reaches port. However, it's important to remember that faith doesn't replace action, it enhances it. Sarah, Michael, and Rebecca didn't wait for things to happen, they acted every day as if the outcome were already certain. This congruence between belief and action is what transforms faith into a force for achievement. Without this integration, faith becomes merely passive wishful thinking. With it, each step taken seems to open invisible doors. In the next chapter, we'll discuss negativity and how it acts as a hidden poison in manifestation. Just as faith accelerates the process, the constant presence of negative thoughts and emotions can destroy it before it materializes. Knowing how to identify and neutralize this energy is as important as building the foundations and cultivating faith. Chapter 6: Negativity, the Hidden Poison. Sadhguru states that negativity is like an invisible leak in a water tank. No matter how much you fill it, if there are cracks, it will never remain full. Negative thoughts and emotions drain creative energy, even when you have clear goals and disciplined action. This happens because every time you think, "it won't work," you're introducing an order that runs counter to your objective. It's like driving with one foot on the accelerator and the other on the brake. The result is stagnation, burnout, and frustration. Neutralizing this force requires awareness and daily vigilance over what you think and feel. Sarah Miller realized that, despite her progress, she still harbored self-talk about insecurity. Small setbacks throughout the day would turn into long, pessimistic ruminations. Recognizing this, she created a simple strategy. Whenever a negative thought arose, she immediately replaced it with a constructive one. If she thought, "this won't work," she replaced it with, "I haven't found the solution yet, but it exists." Over time, this automatic substitution drastically reduced the presence of doubts and kept her energy focused on growth. Michael Harris faced a similar challenge when a software update developed serious flaws. His first reaction was to imagine losses and lost customers. But, remembering Sadhguru's lessons, he stopped this spiral and focused on finding solutions. Instead of complaining or blaming his team, he organized a contingency plan and personally led the recovery. Ultimately, the situation strengthened his relationship with customers, who admired the speed and transparency of his response. Rebecca Collins dealt with negativity proactively. She knew that, as the business expanded, unexpected events would arise and could generate fear and insecurity. Therefore, she implemented weekly meetings to identify challenges and transform them into opportunities for improvement. This practice not only reduced team anxiety but also created an environment where problems were treated as a natural part of growth. This prevented negativity from finding a place to take hold and contaminate decision-making. Negativity is powerful because it acts on deep levels. Mentally, it distorts perception, making obstacles seem greater than they really are. Emotionally, it reduces motivation and weakens confidence. Energically, it creates a vibrational field that attracts more unwanted situations. It's a cycle that feeds on itself unless consciously interrupted. Therefore, Sadhguru emphasizes the importance of monitoring not only what we think, but also what we feel, because emotion is thought in motion. Completely eliminating negativity isn't realistic, but it's possible to prevent it from becoming dominant. This can be achieved through daily mindfulness practices, gratitude exercises, and a deliberate focus on solutions. Each time you interrupt a negative pattern and choose a thought aligned with your goal, you strengthen the path to manifestation. It's like replacing a dirty filter with a clean one. Your vision of the path becomes clear again. In the next chapter, we'll explore the difference between the possible and the impossible and how this perception can be the biggest limiter or the biggest driver in your life. Because often, what you consider impossible isn't determined by reality, but by the story your mind tells about it. Chapter 7: Possible versus Impossible. Sadhguru teaches that the notion of possible and impossible rarely comes from reality, but rather from past experience. He argues that when we say something is impossible, we're actually saying we've never experienced it before. The problem is that by using only the past as a reference, we limit the future to being a copy of what has already happened. It's like driving while looking only in the rearview mirror. You stay on the same road, with no room for new routes. To create something truly new, you need to free yourself from this mental prison and allow the unprecedented to be a real option. Sarah Miller faced this challenge when she decided she wanted to earn 7 figures with online courses. At first, it sounded absurd even to her, who had experience teaching but not in digital business. Her first reaction was to think, "I've never seen anyone in my circle do this, so it's unlikely." Realizing she was basing her expectations on the limited experiences around her, she decided to expand her field of references. She began studying stories of entrepreneurs who achieved similar results, and gradually, what seemed impossible became just an aspirational goal. Michael Harris experienced this when developing a groundbreaking technology for small businesses. Investors told him the market wasn't ready and the project was unfeasible. If he had accepted this impossible as a given, he would have abandoned the idea. Instead, he adopted the mindset that his job was to work on the how to do it and let nature decide that if it's possible. This approach kept him focused on action, and 2 years later, the product was not only viable but also became a benchmark in the industry. Rebecca Collins went through the same thing when she planned to open 5 locations of her coffee shop in just 3 years. Friends and family warned her it was too risky and practically impossible without investors. However, she used this as fuel. She established a detailed plan, reduced costs, reinvested profits, and found strategic partners. By the end of the deadline, she not only had 5 stores but was ready to expand even further. What seemed impossible to others became an unquestionable feat. Believing in the impossible is one of the greatest forms of self-sabotage. When you decide something can't be done, you stop looking for solutions. This blocks creativity, reduces motivation, and keeps you stuck in comfort zones disguised as realism. Sadhguru emphasizes that the role of human beings is to work towards what they want, not to limit possibilities based on old stories. What has never happened before can happen tomorrow, as long as you're willing to act. By freeing your mind from the dictatorship of the past, you create space for new experiences. This doesn't mean ignoring reality or acting irresponsibly, but rather opening the door to the unprecedented. Every innovation, every great achievement, began as something considered impossible until someone proved otherwise. When you internalize this, you realize that limits are more mental than real, and that breaking through these barriers is one of the greatest acts of personal freedom. In the next chapter, we'll talk about internal and external pleasantness, the true purpose behind any manifestation. Because, in the end, everything we seek, be it money, success, or recognition, is to achieve a state of well-being. And understanding this completely changes the way we pursue our goals. Chapter 8: Internal and External Pleasantness. Sadhguru explains that behind every human goal lies a common desire, to live in internal and external pleasantness. This means being at peace with oneself and with one's surroundings. When we ask for money, success, or relationships, what we're really seeking is the sense of peace, joy, love, or satisfaction that we believe these achievements will bring. The problem is that most people reverse the order. They wait for the external world to change before feeling good internally. The central lesson is that by first cultivating internal pleasantness, the external world begins to reflect this state naturally. Sarah Miller experienced this transformation when she realized she spent most of her day feeling stressed. Even though she achieved financial milestones, she felt no true joy. Inspired by Sadhguru, she decided to start her day by cultivating positive internal states before any task. She incorporated meditation, breathing exercises, and moments of gratitude into her morning routine. This shift led to clearer, more relaxed business decisions. As a result, not only did her profits increase, but her relationships with clients and partners also became more harmonious. Michael Harris discovered the importance of external pleasantness when he realized his company was growing, but the internal climate was tense. Employees worked under pressure, and conflicts were common. He understood that the environment needed to reflect the state of well-being he desired for himself. He implemented regular breaks, public recognition, and meetings focused not only on results but also on team bonding. This cultural shift reduced turnover and increased productivity, making work easier for everyone. Rebecca Collins applied this concept to customer service. She knew that a coffee shop doesn't just sell coffee, but an experience. So she trained her team to create genuine and warm interactions. She also ensured that the physical spaces conveyed comfort and welcome. This approach resulted in a significant increase in customer loyalty and revenue, as many recommended the cafe to friends. What she discovered is that external pleasantness isn't a luxury, it's a business strategy. Inner pleasantness works like a magnetic field. When you are at peace and joyful, you naturally attract circumstances, people, and opportunities that reinforce this state. External pleasantness, on the other hand, creates an ecosystem that sustains and amplifies these results. A hostile environment, no matter how good your inner intentions, tends to drain your energy and reduce your ability to manifest. Therefore, it is essential to address both aspects simultaneously. This balance requires constant attention. It's possible to be well internally but allow the environment around you to deteriorate, and vice versa. The ideal is to cultivate habits and structures that support pleasantness as a standard. This includes conscious choices about where to invest your time, who to associate with, and what kind of thoughts and emotions to nurture. Small daily adjustments have a huge impact over time. In the next chapter, we'll talk about daily commitment, the silent discipline that keeps all these principles active. Because understanding the value of pleasantness isn't enough, it's the constant repetition of these practices that ensures it becomes an inseparable part of your life and your journey to prosperity. Chapter 9, The Daily Commitment. Sadhguru teaches that the true power of manifestation lies not only in momentary inspiration, but in the daily discipline of keeping body, mind, emotions, and energy aligned. He states that many people have clarity and motivation for a few days, but lose consistency when faced with distractions and challenges. Daily commitment is what transforms a desire into an inevitable reality. It's not about grand, occasional gestures, but rather small, repeated actions with intention. Just as a muscle grows with constant training, the ability to create the life you want strengthens with daily practice. Sarah Miller incorporated this discipline into an almost ritualistic way. Every day, without exception, she began her morning with meditation, exercise, and goal review. Even on days of travel, illness, or unforeseen circumstances, she found time to complete at least part of this routine. She found that when she neglected these habits, her clarity diminished and her decisions became more reactive. By maintaining this commitment, she felt centered and prepared to handle any situation. This level of consistency was essential to the sustained growth of her business. Michael Harris also adopted daily commitment as a personal rule. His practice included visualizing goals, reading inspirational content, and reviewing his daily priorities. He treated this moment as a date with his future, something non-negotiable. This consistency created such a solid emotional and mental foundation that, even in times of crisis, he was able to maintain focus and optimism. For him, the daily habit wasn't just preparation, but an act of reaffirming to himself and the universe that he was ready to receive what he desired. Rebecca Collins used daily commitment to strengthen her team. Every morning, she gathered employees for a brief alignment, sharing good news and reinforcing the business vision. She also kept a personal journal where she recorded gratitude and the day's learnings. This practice not only improved internal communication but also created a culture of accountability and shared purpose. The routine became a cohesive element, keeping everyone motivated and committed to quality work. Daily commitment isn't just about productivity, but about keeping your mind tuned into what you want to create. It acts as a constant reminder that every action, no matter how small, contributes to the end result. Without this repetition, it's easy to fall into automatism and fall back into old patterns. Therefore, Sadhguru emphasizes that discipline is the true foundation of freedom. It ensures you stay on your chosen path, rather than being dragged along by random circumstances. By practicing daily, you also create internal proof that you can remain true to yourself. This self-evidence increases confidence and faith in the process. It's a positive cycle. Commitment strengthens results, and results reinforce commitment. Over time, these practices cease to be an obligation and become a natural part of your identity. In the next chapter, we'll talk about being mindful of the power you create. Because when your body, mind, emotions, and energy are aligned and supported by discipline, your ability to manifest greatly increases, and it's crucial to use this power consciously to avoid unintended consequences. Chapter 10, Beware the Power You Create. We've reached a point where you understand, aligning body, mind, emotions, and energy transforms you into a conscious creator. But with this power comes the responsibility to wisely decide what you want to put into the world. Sadhguru teaches that energy doesn't differentiate between an impulsive desire and a deeper purpose, it only responds to the focus and intensity you bring. Therefore, when you reach this level of clarity and inner strength, each choice you make carries greater weight, capable of shaping your future and influencing that of others. Sarah Miller, Michael Harris, and Rebecca Collins discovered this the hard way. They learned that being able to manifest isn't enough, they need to ensure that what they manifest aligns with solid values and desired outcomes. By turning down opportunities that deviated from their purpose, they preserved their integrity, credibility, and the essence that led to their success. This proves that saying no at the right time is as powerful as saying yes. This is the crucial point. The power of manifestation isn't meant to create everything possible, but to create only what's right for you and for the world you want to build. Used consciously, it generates sustainable growth, strengthens relationships, and keeps life in balance. Used carelessly, it can bring quick results but also lasting regrets. Now, the decision is in your hands. You can continue to simply react to what happens or take on the role of architect of your own reality. If you choose the latter, remember, every thought, emotion, and action is a seed. And with the alignment you've learned here, each seed has the potential to become a tree that will bear fruit throughout your life. If this content resonated with you, leave a comment with the lesson you'll apply most from today. This isn't just a symbolic gesture, it's an act of commitment to the life you want to create. Because the universe responds not to what you deeply desire, but to what you demonstrate your readiness to receive. And remember, prosperity isn't a destination, it's a state you sustain every day. Let this be the beginning of a journey where you not only manifest, but manifest with awareness, clarity, and purpose. Conclusion: become the creator of your reality. You've seen, chapter after chapter, that manifesting isn't magic, it's a method. It's aligning body, mind, emotions, and energy so your entire being works in the same direction. It's acting with focus, discipline, and clarity, knowing that every thought is a project, every emotion is fuel, and every action is a brick in the construction of your life. And, above all, it's using this power consciously to create not only what you want, but what's truly worthwhile. Starting today, you have the tools to break out of the cycle of reactivity and enter the cycle of deliberate creation. This means you no longer have to wait for things to get better to start feeling good. You can feel good now and let the external world follow suit. As Sadhguru teaches, what you hold stable internally inevitably manifests externally. Now it's your turn to act. If you want to continue learning how to maintain this alignment and become a conscious creator in all areas of your life, subscribe to the channel now. Only those committed to their own growth remain here, and this is your opportunity to be part of this group. And I want to propose something else. To prove to the universe that you are ready to apply what you have learned, comment below the word alignment. This will be your sign of commitment, your way of saying publicly, I take control of my reality from today onwards. Let's create a life of purpose, abundance, and positive impact together. Click to subscribe, turn on notifications, and write alignment in the comments. This is the first step on your new journey.